this system, where I can have both front end and the back end system. With SAP, it doesn't let us do a lot of like activating the services or things like that, creating like a launchpad instance.
Correct, correct,
So
correct.
I'm just shopping around to see if there is any systems I can.
Yes, I think I'll get you one contact. So because there will be like for 3 months they'll give for I think for 3,000 around they used to give one system.
Mm.
So there we can play around. So where we can do complete activity. So I
Mm.
think if you are having any already working in any uh, if you have any sandbox system within your environment, we can pretty much use there as well. But if you're not having any access to any sandbox system within your existing uh,
Yeah, they have not given access to, it's like it's like a army base, right? No, super protected right now.
okay.
Not getting like not allowing to go there like 100-mile radius around it. So
Okay, okay. So
uh,
right now, see, some what for the UFX is we can use the cloud trial account, but for the configuration part, like you said, we definitely need a GUI. So because certain aspects of it, because on-premise part, if you wanted to understand GUI with on GUI will do, but they pretty much will do, it's like one-time process. I'll show you, and whenever you are using also those recording sessions will be help you. What we'll do is one applications now in this week we'll try to every day we'll create one or the other UFA project, and I'll try to explain one or the other concept, and all these applications we'll try to see how do we deploy onto on-premise and how do we deploy onto cloud. So then we'll get clear understanding. So those complete applications, once we start having some couple of applications, then we'll do a quick deployment. So you can note, I'll ask you to make a note, so that video you can take it as a reference for deploying any kind of scenario in
mm,
on-premise or cloud. So that will be your handy one. So for the development part, it's your free to play with any template. So all
mm,
the controls you can play around with any template, but the deployment will be the same for whichever the path you are, however you are creating, whether it is extension
mm.
project or anything, deployment will be the same. Okay. So let me select now. We know that we have two options. So as we explained, so first we are taking an Fiori element application. Let's create an application. Then let's try to extend it. So how do we do it? So when we come here, we'll select Fiori elements. Then in this case, I'm selecting list report or work list. We can select either of them. These are based on analytics. So this will both will involve analytics. So more to do with annotations than with extension. So I'll select list report in this case, and I'll select next. And if you're using local, you can use OData service option. If you are using BAS tool, then you can select SAP system because ESFI is already configured. So take this service. So you can remove this prefix only, and with GW basic. So whatever you have the basic, we can use this. And then just log in with your ESFI credentials so that once we are authenticated, the next should be enabled. So if you see, it automatically fetches certain entities in this case. So we'll try to choose one entity out of it. And this is how automatically the binding, everything will be taken care and we need not to do. So I'm selecting a product set, and product set I'm mapping to the supplier. Select next and give a module name. So you try to give it as whatever project name you intended to give it. So in this case, I'll say list report extension, ext, list report extension. And application title, I'll say it as H, think if not, say list report extended. Okay. Namespace, keep it constant, like I said. So for convenience, you can make it as UX. I'm using UX. You are free to use the same any name. And extension. So this is the first, this is not an extension project actually. This is the first time we are building an application. So first, let's see how we have one working application. Then we'll try to see the extension of it. I have given as name as extension, but this is not an extension project yet because we'll try to run this application first and see whether it's working, etc. So basic thumb rule is Elements apps will not have any views. Will have only annotation, and you have to use only annotations. So what are annotations, etc. So annotations to generate, we use CDS views. So using CDS views, we can generate annotations. So that is, if you're an ABAPer, if you do not know any UI, completely you wanted to do drag and drop approach, then the problem like I said, you can achieve only the what the template gives you. Out of template, you cannot design anything because it has the limitation of sticking to only templates. So the four templates which we saw, only those four templates output we can get. So if you want to have any custom solution, we cannot achieve using this particular approach. So if you have a CDS view and it contains annotations, then straight away, and your desired output is the template, whether list report or work list or analytical or overview page, then you can pretty much come here and you can directly create your project and your application will be ready in a couple of days. And to tweak further, we have something called local annotations. So what are local annotations? So for local annotations are one where instead of writing in the back end the code, from the front end itself, we can create the annotations. So right now it is not very matured in BAS, but we had very sophisticated tool in WebID. So how do we do it? So for local annotations, you can select annotation, right click it, and we can open service modeler. So service modeler will allow us to give, instead of the raw reference in the form of XML, it gives us in a more nicer way to look at the complete entities. If you see in this case, we had business partner and we had product, etc. These are like entities, the same entities. This is just a prefix called service name, but you have to look at, under the service, what all entities we have. And currently, if you see, there are no annotations. How did I tell there are no annotations? There will be an @ symbol if at all there are any annotations. Like annotations in the sense, like on the server side, if any annotations are implemented. So in this case, there are no annotations implemented. So it doesn't have any. Okay. So if we have any annotations, we can straight away go to navigate to that section and we can directly edit those annotations and we can create annotations. Okay. Okay. So I'll explain this because it's not very straightforward. You need to understand lots of annotation tags first in order to start adding manually. It's just like coding, how we use XML tags and etc. Annotations are like UI tags. They're like separate bunch of tags. And right now we do not have any a nicer way to do. You have to tweak around the file, but I'll not complicate you today. I'll park that for some other day. But so now what we are going to do is, now let me run this application. So I'll select preview. Even see, there are like lots of SAP developers. They're tossing around with different approaches. Okay, these all are some brilliant ways they have come up with. And the problem is they don't live long. Some other cool idea comes and they simplify the whole process altogether. Okay,
I mean, at this rate, our general lifespan itself is at risk.
true.
As a human being, there's so many things to learn. It's ever changing.
See, because I was on the same impression, SAP was changing drastically, but the problem was outside the competition, the pressure the SAP is getting is very, they outside, so outside when I say non-SAP products, they're at rocket speed, they're giving innovations. And the problem with SAP is it has to catch up both ends because it has legacy customers, because all these new age customers, they don't have older customers. Either all of them start from new, or they'll ask them to migrate all their old applications to new. So they have only one direction, from old to new to migration. But SAP has its legacy behind. It cannot leave their customers behind who are sticking to them from last 20 years. So it has to keep supporting the old things which it has delivered. See, now that they had to support till 2030, no matter whether web info technology, the application is built, or in UF application it has been built. You're understanding, right? So that's the problem currently we have. Now this, I just select settings and adaptive filters, and this is how our application looks. Okay, so we haven't done any effort. All we did was we used a wizard and we mapped the business partner entity and we selected navigation as supplier. Then we got this part pretty much, this application. So if you see there are like in the further drill down navigation, there are no elements added. So if we at all we want to add, we can add using this approach. If you see, we have create option, and this is pretty much empty, the form. Discard. And we have a delete option. Where do you want to delete object, etc. And object got deleted. So we had some basic functionality out here. And by default, we got exporting functionality as well. So pretty much we got 50% of the work has been done by the template itself, correct? So we got nice exporting functionality.
Yeah.
So typically any reports, if any customer asks you to build and they wanted to search those reports, then pretty much this is the simplest way to do in a very quick way. So you can manage, you can create new entries, you can delete entries, report managing, you can export the files and you can search the report. So all the report scenarios when you get it, please use list report application straight away and you need not to, you will be able to deliver it very smoothly. Right now, what if we have to add some more elements? Like in this case, it's empty and template has given us some code. Now we have to further add on top of it. And how do we, if it is an already shipped application, how do we extend it? So these are the questions we get, right? So for that purpose, what we do is now we'll go back to our IDE. Now within this IDE, now I'll select you have once you have a project ready, it could be your fresh project or it could be our already some existing project which is shipped in Fiori elements. And now if we are trying to extend both for both cases the same process, go to view, select command palette and use open guided development. You have guided development, open guided development, and here you have to select the project. So in this case it says list report select. If you do not find this drop down where it doesn't prompt you to select the project, so this is the name we have given. So list report extension is a project name, ext we have given. So you have to refresh this development environment so that you'll be able to find again this particular drop down. You have to make sure you have to select this particular project. And here in the guided approach, there are like different templates. Now we have used list report. If at all you are using object page, nothing but the different approaches we are using it. So if we are using any object page, we can use this. The detail page you have, right? That is object page. The moment we drill down, this is object page. So they call it as object page because you have header and then a body. So this is like this header, usually they call it as object page. Okay. So if you want to play around there, you can check out this, or if you want to play around at the list page area, this is a page you have to look around. And then you have, if you are using overview template, so this is a section where guided development approach, we have to refer to the overview page section. And similarly, the analytical list page. So you have different applications and different templates. So we have the other application template worklist, right? For worklist, we'll follow this. So everywhere for all the 4 templates, we have all the scenarios. What all scenarios we can add also, everything is given. Now I'll go to first option, adding custom action. So custom action, when I say it's now edit button. So I want to add some edit button, custom action button. So we have create and delete. Now we are trying to add edit button. So click on this. It will tell you what exactly it does. So it gives you a snapshot here. So we are trying to add similar button like this, custom action. In this case, sales order tables tab extension. So this is an extension they added to existing application. Now in our case, we just click on start guide and we'll come to this section. Now it says, if you see the folder structure here, so you do not have any extension folder. We have only annotations folder, nothing much in this. And there is no code to tweak around also. So we cannot write any single line of code because these do not have any views, etc. And there's only place where you can do is annotations using service modeler. Now here it allows us to add controllers, etc. So it creates extension folder and creates a new controller, etc. All you have to do is what is a function name. So if you go to any view controller, what we do, we give the press event and then we define the function. Now here we can directly give the function name. Now in this case, my function name could be on edit, right? Give the function name Here you can select whether list report section you want to add or on the object page section. Now we want to add in the list report page itself. So I'll select list report and function name is on it, and I can just select. See, this is how your function will be. So simply
Yeah.
an alert message it's giving it. You just click on apply. So if you click on apply and you have this, just save it. So if you see the new folder called extension and controller got created, right? Now I'll close this. Now click on next. The next section here itself tells you to add extension point. So here you can set entity set. So which entity set, if you wanted to add any new field, etc. So further any page, now in this case I wanted to add suppose product partner set. We added by default added product set. Now we wanted to add some fields from different entity. So I can just give an ID. See, this is like from every control will give ID, right? So this is like wizard based they have given, that's it. So I give an ID called for partner ID, ID as partner ID, and then the button text I'll give as edit. Function name is on it, or let's me select product set itself because we have, let's edit the product data itself. I'll say ID edit. So button name, button text will be edit and ID will be ID edit. And the moment we press on it, it will take you to on edit function. Okay. So manually we have to add in manifest. So this is a manifest. If you see under SAP UFA, they added a new called extends, and then they called extension points. This is control extension point. So manually we can add or we can use this particular wizard. This wizard allows us to create all these particular. If you select product entity set, it creates product entity set and actions, etc. So this is a better way. Now all you have to do is just exit this. And if you go back to list report, you'll find this particular content. And if you run this application, I think it's already, we have opened it, right? So it will automatically refresh it. Nope, I think let me rerun it. No, I think some step got skipped. The second step where we have done, that got skipped, I think. Let me start the guide. So on edit function, we had this step 2. Let me open this one. Okay, already exists. Reset. List report we had on edit function. Yeah, this one I have to save it. So I haven't saved it. So if you see this page when it came, I think it showed as black. We have to save this. So the manifest entry whatever got added, we should be able to see. We'll go back to manifest and we'll check. I'll close this. I think we are done with this exit guide. We'll open manifest. So two things should be appeared after the wizard we used. One, we should be able to see extension folder and controller, and we should see this simple function called on edit. See, we can now add any functions you want to add directly. Because this did not have any extent controller files, etc. Using wizard, we are trying to add one controller. So here we can create our own functions. Now how we write the logic, any logic, like whatever we want to add, all new functions we can start adding it. Here simply alert, this is edit. We can start it. And in the manifest under SAP UFI, if you see SAP underscore UFI, here we have a section called extends. So this is using wizard from 116, this new extension points got added. So this is like control extension we added. We haven't added any view extension. So this particular extension, it is using product set. If you want to change any entity, so some other entity, we can directly add new entry or you can change it. So this is the generic app, And one more entity, if you want to add, you can directly copy this particular section. So you just select this particular path. So it ends it here. So you can copy it, and then you can place a comma and you can add one more entity. Suppose you want business partner entity, you can add one more entity. And which all actions you want to use, we can add the actions. It's like everything we have to add in the manifest here instead of the.
And what does manifest exactly do?
Oh,
Like,
so if manifest is the place, if you see, we are saying the ID of the application and which OData service to use. So the
mm,
key part is your application refers to this section to identify individual folders. No,
like
no,
attributes, right?
correct. Attributes itself. They call it as descriptor file. Descriptor is like it tells the runtime where to find each individual information in the folder structure. In web app structure, we have lots of folders, but runtime should understand right from index where it has to go back in order to find the information. So this is a collect information which tells you what's the app about. This is see SAP. There are like three here multiple sections: app section, UI section, UFI section. So this is the extension part. Okay, if I collapse everything, if you see carefully, this is like if you are doing any cloud deployment. So on the cloud, see here SAP platform by HCP, HANA Cloud Platform HCP. So here you will find those parameters getting added. And SAP Fiori is just it just tells if you have multiple versions of this particular application, the multiple registered IDs etc. will be appearing it. If you extended the application, the old ID and new ID etc. will be appearing it. On premise, if you deployed any parameters etc. So here the parameters will be added. So runtime will know that this is deployed application in app and this is a path or this is a place where it has to deploy etc. So those information it will get. So this is a section meant for extensions which we are currently using. Understand it? So this app has been extended and all the resources are in order to refer, it will understand that it has to go to extension folder and controller logic it has to load. And
Mm,
if you see UFI part, so specifically it says if any external files we are loading, suppose I said initially JavaScript as external files, all the logic you can carry to all the applications. Now you have some logic which you have written in JavaScript previously. Now you want to carry it. You can just place them in your resource folder, and you can straight away give the path of the new folder you can create, or you can put the JS files and the path you can define it here. Similar the
mm,
CSS path. So this resources is like any additional libraries you want to load, you can load it apart from the UFI libraries. These are additional libraries. So these are resources. And you say in UFI version, what is the minimum UFI version and what all libraries you want to by default to be loaded? By default, we are using core library. For extension, we need this generic app. SAP added generic is extension library. And we have the templates. We are using the guided approach, right? So we are using the template approach. So these are like necessary libraries to run this application. So UFI tells you what are the resources are there, what else to be used. And UI space specifically like in desktop, certain times you want to have certain icons, and the mobile you want to have certain icons. So all the icons will be listed here. And whether this application is compatible on desktop etc. If you want to stop this application from working on mobile, you can simply set this parameter as phone as false. Then it won't work on your mobile device. Like specific to UI technology, what all theme to use, what in which device to allow it to run, what icons to use in phone, which icon to use in tablet, which icon to use. This is like one icon, two icons you can define for phone, and this is meant for desktop. So this is this is like if you see carefully, all are like information for the runtime, where to which theme to use. Now, if you want to change any theme, here you will come to you'll these three themes are supported, and any of these three themes we can define in our index file. So all three are supported. Okay, these are like what all are supported. It will tell the information.
mm.
And the app section, you pretty much know. We give each tile represents unique ID. So that ID it will refer from here. App section. The launchpad, the tile you see, it is because of this particular SAP.app ID, and then what type of application is it, where to find the I18 files. If you have to translate automatically when you're loading application in German etc., where to find the I18. So I18 folder is it's in I18 folder, and there you have to refer. By default you use this particular properties. These are like English properties. If you're adding any German language, I18.de you can add and you can refer to that. So by default it will load with German language.
Mm.
You're getting it. So here you can maintain each version. If you're you can manually update this. version 1, version 2 of your application version, and title, description, etc. of the tile, what to appear, etc. So here most part is related to application. So these are application information, and this is the OData service which we have used in this particular application. That's it. And these are the annotations which are used, if any. This is about if you see all are like why we say now descriptor, you understood. So this is complete description about your application, whether it is on-premise, cloud, where it is getting deployed. If it is application, what is it application ID? If it is I18 file, where is the I18 file? From here you'll come to know, okay, in I18 folder you have to find the I18 files, and from this you'll come to know this is the OData service being used in this particular application. Central point. Actually, in WebID we used to have a layout in the sense we used to have like wizard kind of itself, where if we need not to look at this Excel, like we used to have tabs kind of like data source, etc. And we used to directly maintain with cosmetic UI. I think in BS also they'll introduce that particular plugin. As on date, there is no UI for this one. Manifest when always you have to edit in. Chances are like if you miss any double quotes, etc., don't mess it up with this manifest file, because your application will not run, because this is a core file where it will try to read where to find each file. So if anything misses out, runtime will not understand where to find those files. Okay. For the extension part here, this manual edition, if you see, this is very complicated. You cannot actually put this structure into, see, this is how the JSON way, this is JSON file. I said, right, JSON writing code is not so good. Initially I said we can, this the views also we can write in JSON. This is how the it messes up. So this like attributes would be defined this way. List, these are like properties, you can consider them as properties, and under the properties, subsettings, etc., we define it this way. So they have what SAP has given is they gave one wizard. Using guided approach, you can add the entries into manifest, and then further you can write your code the way you are used to write. Now we can write in JavaScript directly. I think now we added this. Let me see if it is running now. If you see now, we got the edit button, because previously the manifest did not get it was not saved, so it did not appear it. Yeah, we have to select some columns. Select all columns. So now we got this particular application and with edit function. Now if you click on edit, now you could see the message which we have given, it should appear as such. Nope, it's not appearing. Let's see. What
Maybe we have to write more code with what that on edit does.
we are just checking for the basic thing. I think some load features no, I think there is no issue. These are like map of undefined. No, these are not errors actually. Yes, this is working fine. Delete page. Okay. It there is no other change we have added it. So technically we should have it. Let me clear one's cache, because there's nothing we have written here. All we gave is just simple text. We are yet to write the logic. So we're just seeing how do we add this building blocks for elements based application. Yeah, only a couple of fields. Let's see. Yeah, here it seems to be for field recipe, so generic number generic data. Couldn't see any specific error pinpointed to this. Tracking is not. What we can do is the here there is no code involved. It's all system generated code. If anything goes wrong, we cannot actually make it out anything, or we cannot modify because it's based on parameters. Okay.
Mm.
So what all we can do is we have to reselect it. We have to reset the application. Here, if you come back again, it'll reset the code. So we have to reset it. Let me delete this particular file. I'll delete this and manifest also. Let me re-delete it. Generic app. So this generic app, whatever we have it. I'm just deleting this, saving it. So all are discarded. Whatever changes we had, control is discarded. This is discarded. Everything is discarded. Because this is if it's system generated code, we cannot actually make any change at all. Nothing we can do in this case. So let me save this. So once again we started adding it. So it just created an on it and then added it. And
do we have to yeah, it saves automatically maybe, huh?
correct. So if it is saving, it's fine. So this gives us to add function. Now we just added one function. Let's try to add button extends apply. So if you see, it is not yet saved, the black
Got it.
we have to save it. And this is how the snippet, which is it says like under UFI extend block has been added. So extension point it is adding this way. Seeing in list report we are adding product set. So that's it. Here we don't have any. Here it will not allow you to do all the tasks. We have to code again. But only thing is to add initial building blocks. We'll take the help of this guided development. That's it. So now we have the block and we have this one. Let's me see and try running it again. Let me close this as well.
Upman data.
All good so far. Let's see. So these use cases will be very less. Generally, they go with approach of changing the whole application. So because if you are having a standard query app, you'll have minimalistic changes. You'll not have too much of a change. So actually we saw like tweaking around the places, etc. So by adding this control, etc. Now you know where to place your code, etc. So any custom places we want to add, we can prepare our project structure in such a way that all the controls, etc. would be added, and then we can further modify it. Let's see this first. I think if it runs, then probably I can proceed further. It's taking very long. Previously, you're able to use these templates, right? So you're able to generate a list report or work list application. I think you said you were working on analytic application.
Yeah, I tried like analytical application. I tried you know the list page
Hmm.
using the same OData service.
So you're comfortable, so there is no issue. See, because it's just a wizard. So if you are able to reach there, further how to extend, this is a continuation of it. So because I haven't explained much, because it's like understandable, like you can use the wizard. All you need to give is OData service and select the right fields which you want to see in the application. So all the time, but analytical and RU page, they needs modification of annotations. So I'll go there in detail. But for the list report and work list, it is pretty much same. Now how we have seen, we got a pretty much a nice application. So further to extend it, we have to use this approach.
Mm.
Let me reload it. I think it's taking way long.
Oh.
Some error. Is it load flex? No, these are not errors. These are some dependency files. So it will show you, don't worry about, there will like lots of unused components which will be loaded at times, and their truly errors will come to know. Execution flow will be stopped. Okay, it's testing us. Okay. So there is, if you are using, like I said, web, some cases extension you have to do in older way. So I have, it would be not in English. I have recorded, but there is one session out here. Previously, I have done this similar exercise on annotations on in using WebID. I think. Not sure I have somewhere. Yeah. So this one is using full stack WebID annotations. Okay. I can mute on, I mean, you can mute this particular on because the language it is in Telugu. I have explained this whole exercise,
Yeah,
but the steps.
understand Telugu.
So you can check the exercises here. So it will use WebID. So the how in using WebID, how to use, etc. You have it. Actually, I was checking if we can have WebID as well. So WebID has more a robust tool. The tool is not yet released for BAS. Okay, it will very soon. It will be released. So it will allow you to play around with annotations in a much more robust way. So right now we have is service modeler. Service modeler is very basic. So it doesn't allow us to add. It's annotations adding this approach is really tedious. So I think they'll release very soon for the BS one more plugin which will allow us to deal. But if you see at the WebID how we are able to add annotations and how we are able to play around in this exercise, you'll see the how what BS is missing, truly missing. Okay. But there are always ways like service model. In this case, in WebID, we did not have this kind of service modeler where step by step guided for adding an action. If you see, for adding an action straight away, we are able to add standard flow. And for adding a filter, if you want to add a filter or you want to add a column in a table, so they have given you how to add microcharts, every action of it. So
Oh, nice.
every action of it. You can just enable table to auto load data, a reordering of the columns you want to reorder. So what are the type of tables? So every action which because it's a template, right? The functionality is defined. So you cannot go out of the functionality because it is generated using annotation. So what all
Yeah.
actions you can do also it is known. So they have given guided approach. For each action to do, you can have to write. Only thing you have to focus is writing on the logic in the Java controller. In the controller, you write the logic, you are good. So understanding to write logic, if you familiar, the wizard will guide you how to add the building blocks in your project structure. If you see, it added the building block in what is required in manifest, what is required in the controller. But our focus again shifts to after adding it directly, it shifts to our logic part. We'll directly write our logic here. You're understanding, right?
Mm. Yeah.
So what we want to edit is specifically we'll pick the fields which we want to edit, then we'll get the value of it, row value, then we'll try to update with newer value, etc. So if user is entering any value, we'll try to read it and we'll try to update the database. So all the logic we'll try to write it here. So but the basic skeleton will be taken care by the this particular guided development approach. Okay. I think, my bad. This is taking way longer. I think it's the same exercise I have done. Probably what you can do is it's just I have published it in the last night itself. The same activity I have done it. It ran very smoothly. I showed you just before the beginning of the class, right? So nothing much I have done. I just added. There is no piece of code also. All it is, you know, then it strange. So I think I just added it. You can pull this code as well. I think I think this project folder. So using adaptive UI, the URL you can log into this particular trial account. So and for this one, I already published it in the, Fiori element app. Okay. So you can pull this code for running application. Now in this case, I think it is struggling to run. Not sure what is missing it. Okay. Meanwhile, what I'll do is let me open this for illustration. I'm opening it one which I have run pen folder. So I just created this. This the what you I have shared this, right? So there's the same snippet. I'm just trying to open so that I can explain a few more things. Let me run this. I'll close. Yes, I think now in this application here it is running it quickly. I'm not sure what's missing in the application. You can try, the same steps you can try. If you're stuck, I'll just look into it. But the same steps I had done last night, and it's the same output I'm trying to get. Now, some more additions, which is if you see by default, it is not loading with any fields. Always we are had to go and select some fields, right? So this like auto binding I have done. So I just try to add auto binding as well. And then what our intention was to, if we click on edit, it shows this message. The logic, it is executing the logic like edit. So this part we have done. Now I will try to show you the other areas where we are trying to add. So I'll just go to view command palette. You can search for open guided development. Okay. Or if you type Fiori, it will prompt you with service modeler for manually adding annotations, guided development for adding or extending projects to Fiori elements. So Fiori element based application, guided development. Application generator meant for creating new applications. Okay, there is one more option. Old project. Now first, if your project is in web id, so you want to convert into bas, that is it does not have certain missing files, so all those projects will be migrated to Fiori. This doesn't work always, but it works for 80% of the use cases when there is as on date, because I try to migrate few of my old projects from WebID to BAS, and some of them very smoothly it worked, but for some of them it struggled to convert and it says it cannot. And in those cases, alternate ways, create a project, copy all your logics from controller files, etc., and just paste it. So that is manually to do. You're able to understand, right? If you have a WebID project, you can create a fresh template from using BAS. You can, but all the logic and view, everything is the same, right? You can just copy the view part and you can work it. Only your project structure will be changing because of WebID and BAS. Okay, so these are the four plugins which will help us to do many more tasks in coming days ahead. I'll select this project, refresh. Okay. Now I'll try to add using add new column. Okay, so add new column to the table. So the tables by default we are not getting auto populated. So using this, we have something called annotation called UI line item. So if you set line item, it will by default when it loads, it shows those particular line items on the table. By default, no line item annotation is available. Annotation, if it is available, then only it will understand. Now we have to add annotations of partner ID, etc. So if these annotations we define it by default, when it loads, it reads the annotation and it populates these fields by default. So how to do that? Again, you select add a new column to table option. Here two options are there: XML annotation, CDS annotation. This is nothing but if you are having in CDS view, if you're defining annotations, you can use this particular approach. It's like your annotation file is on the server. XML annotation is like local annotations. When I say local annotations, you are manually adding to the project now. You're able to get it. By default, in the OData service, we have annotations. So how to check whether we have annotations or not? Right click on annotation file, click on open service modeler. Okay. So if you open service modeler, it should show you at the rate. So if you see here, it has at the rate. That means it has server side annotation. This is CDS view. Okay. So if you see, if you click on this code, it will show in the source. So this is the part annotation added to that particular entity line item. Getting it right? So UI line item has been added. So if it has any server side annotations, it will appear. You can check them using your service modeler, open service modeler, and you can pretty much see what all annotations. If you see based on entity type for which I can click on back, so you can see all the entities. These are all the entities in your service. This is the same service which we open it here, and we can see. See, okay, we'll use dollar metadata. So here we have entities, etc. So here it will be listed, and on the bottom, if you scroll down also metadata, you'll find annotations if at all we have anything. Okay. So he doesn't have any annotations from the server. So if there are any annotations, you'll find here annotation section. Here you have associations, you have entities, and basically essential based on this particular metadata itself, the code is getting generated. List report code is getting generated only because of this file. If there is a missing metadata file, then nothing will be generated. You're getting it right? Okay, I think how Fiori elements work, I need to explain. Okay, so element-based applications, they work based on metadata. So if metadata is missing, the whole code cannot be generated. It should know right from where to pick this particular business partner ID. So in this metadata, it has entity sets. Now business partner has this particular address. It has a business partner ID, etc. So it reads from metadata and it automatically generates this code. So internally, it uses metadata to generate this particular piece of lines of code. To further tweak around and to check whether it has annotations, etc., one thing we use is service modeler to check whether it has any server-side annotations. Okay. So in this tab, if CDS annotation, if there are no annotations there, that means we cannot use any service modeler. All we have to use is XML annotation. Now manually, let's add it. So I'll select Start Guide, and now it creates a web app. New under annotations, it will try to add one more file. Okay, or existing file if it's there, it will try to update any changes. So for auto updating now, I'll select product entity set, and I'll select certain field I wanted to add it on the table. So from the supplier or sales orders, for sales order items, I just wanted to add a property. So it will list of all the properties. So I wanted to add gross amount now. Okay, now I'll show you this here. Now what we are trying to do is we have. So by default, initially we selected when the project we selected product set, right? So it has all the fields of product set. So these all fields are there. Now I want to add into the table one more column, which is not from the product set, but which is from some other entity. So in this case, I want to add it from, I have selected sales order set. Okay, what we selected, let me check. Yeah, product set. So we selected product set. From product set, we have further navigation called sales order set. If you see here, we have something called two supplier, two sales order items. So we are drilling down one more layer. Okay. Now if I go further, see from product set for specific thing, I have some other items called sales order ID, item, etc. So we want to show this particular columns also on our main table, on the main table. This is like first level data. Second level data fields also we want to show on the column, on the table column. So how do I add it? So now I'm trying to add this particular product ID, etc. onto my main table. So I'm coming to here. and I selected entity as product and product navigation path. So it is navigating to either supplier or sales order items. So I am navigating to sales order items, and I can select in this case all the so product ID, etc. Clear? So whether
Mm.
we can set the importance, it's like if you're running this application on high, if you say in the mobile device, this will appear. In mobile device, you don't want this particular element to be, it's not very important. Then you can set the priority as low. That means it will be hidden in case of mobile. Only in case of desktop, it will appear. Okay. So that's the significance of UI importance. And now it will add this particular annotations. If you see, either you can manually add this all, so but you'll not understand why we are adding collection, why you're adding record, why we are adding, see, it's nothing but it is defining the path way to navigate. It's adding one data field and it's adding one product ID. So let's add a code, then we'll read this, then you'll understand. So if I see there, go back, annotation, property, supplier, this is, I have to click apply. Now if you see, it got added. We had just one record. This is a highlighted one, is the new code which got added now. I'll save this. I'll say exit guide. And let's see. Now we could see the product ID. So we're able to add product ID there. We're able to find there. It's taking time to load. Yes. So now we got the product ID. Clear? So
Yeah.
we added old, see, all the product set items are there, but we did not have the second level field. But to add that second level field also, now to add it, we followed it. Now we can follow the same approach to add. See, by default, you want to add now business partner, how we added. Each time you can go to the wizard and you can start adding all the files. So by default, when it loads with all these parameters, etc. So this is like simple exercise. Try to do simple exercise. And if you're stuck also, I'll publish the complete end-to-end. I'll add. See, we have to repeat. Uh, Now we have 10 fields here, right? So manually we are selecting it. Every time you have to select business partner ID, and you have to repeat the steps. So now business partner ID we added is by default when you're loading it, it is coming with business partner ID. And now if you want to add some other fields from sub entity, you have to repeat the steps to add different fields, or you can copy paste in your annotation file. Now this particular file we have, right? So we have to copy paste this particular line, and we have to change the value. So if you see, you have to change instead of product ID, you have to set to gross weight. So you have gross, no, suppose you have want to add sales order ID. What I will do is I'll go back to here. I can close the guided approach. I can just copy this particular line item. Now if it becomes readable to you now. If you see, because you can understand it, we are adding one data field, and the value, what value we want to show there, we want to show now in this case we want to show sales order ID, right? So I'll copy sales order ID, and then I'll place the sales order ID here. So just rename this to sales order ID, and done. So no new field will be added. And you want to add the primary field, just copy this particular annotation. So this is annotation approach of adding it. So these are all local annotations. So now I wanted to, instead of this set, I want to add the fields from product set. So I'll go to my product set, and I'll pick some other, supplier name. Now I want to add supplier name. I'll play around with it. I'll place it supplier. If we ideally run this path does not exist, to supplier. I think it's not to supplier. I think I have picked it from the wrong one. So within this again, that field came from to supplier. Okay, so it says it doesn't exist. So we have to pick it from here, any of the field. Company name. Actually, we have given the path as to supplier, so it doesn't exist, it says. So we have to use this. If you want to add it from product set, again we have to add the base path, or we can give straight away the standard path. Don't add manually. Why I say is, see, we were stuck in the previous time when I was trying to do as well. So this is like basic elements. If the structure is like parent container will have collection, line item, etc. If this anything typo error or anything is there, all your sub properties will not work. So use guided approach to add one or the two elements. Then you can use a code approach where you can come to here and you can copy paste and you can keep adding other attributes. You're able to understand, right?
Yeah.
So this is like you need to if you do the basic, I said tomorrow I'll explain in detail. I'll do the complete application and I'll share you. Then if you relook at the code, etc., you'll find it very easy to understand. So what we did is have taken list report application. We have done it. Now using these tools, we are able to edit complete application. Now if you see by default when you're loading the application, now if you see by adding that annotations, now without actually selecting any settings, etc., we're able to achieve business partner ID, company name, product ID, sales order ID, etc. Right? I think it's taking time to load, but definitely it will load. Hopefully. So basic way to extend we saw will take more key function. Now if we understand this process, then we can play around with more complex scenarios. So every step is guided approach is the same. So if you understand the simple ones first, then we can see now we got nicely by default when you are loading, instead of selecting all the properties, how many layers we have data also, we are able to, I think it's not so responsive now right now. So if we are not actually manual selecting, automatically it default it got selected and it's loading all the applications. So business partner ID, it's coming from supplier field, and company name is coming from supplier field. Product ID is coming from sales order item set, and when sales order ID is coming from sales order item set. So likewise, we are able to fetch from other entity sets.